back, everybody. We're going to do a slight greenhouse tour and garden tour, but I'm mainly making this video to address some questions associated with a lot of people seem to be asking me about blight this year, especially this year is really bad. They're asking me about blight and how do I deal with it, and other things like aphids. We could talk a little bit about that. This seems to be a common problem with people, and there's really no answers to a lot of this stuff, but I can tell you what I do. So what I'll do is let me just kind of go right into the blight and the tomatoes, try to answer what I can with people on that, and just give you my perspective on it. So let's turn you around and show you what we got. Okay, all right, so when people are talking about blight in general and tomato plants, as you can see out here, the tomato plants out here are kind of doing okay, but they're not doing that good. I'll bring you out. So part of the problem with tomato plants and the outdoors, and a lot of people seem to misunderstand this. They think that, oh, it's the blight that's killing the tomatoes. It's really what it is it's the rainwater. The rainwater, number one, is toxic. It's very toxic and it'll kill your plants. That's the number one thing with tomatoes. The other thing about tomato plants is that they don't like very, very high temperatures and very high humidity. So if you have a combination of high humidity, high temperatures, and you're getting a lot of rain, well, you're going to end up with results like this. All your plants are just basically going to die. It basically rained every single day for about a month and a half, right after we had 2.5 months worth of absolute dry. Wildfires were breaking out everywhere, and then right after that it rained for about a month and a half every single day, anywhere between a ½ inch to 2 inches of rain every single day, and it pretty much destroyed most of my tomato plants. As you can see, it's cooling down and the temperatures you know, and the humidity and everything's dropping. We got a nice breeze. It's not as much sunlight. It's a little more cloudy as a result of that, and it's not raining obviously as much anymore. You can see the tomato plants are starting to recover from that, but a lot of them didn't make it because it just killed them. And if you're growing determinate plants, they're just going to drop dead, and you're not going to get much of a yield off of them, because you're going to end up with blossom end rot. A lot of my tomatoes, I had to pull them because they were all blossom end rot, and they are garbage. This is a wild variety. This thing can take anything. I'm slowly but surely trying to work some of these wild varieties into these domesticated varieties to try to get a more hardy, hot variety of tomato, being that the plant is going to catch on fire soon. So what I'm just trying to illustrate here is that, as you can see, the rain is very toxic for tomato plants. Now, it hasn't rained in about 2 weeks or so, and as a result of that, from not raining, and I don't water my tomato plants at all, but as a result of that, you can see all the blight is still kind of happening. The late blight is a very bad one. That's the one, like over here, you see a little late blight. It's just wiping that plant out faster than the plant can grow. But and generally, any of your anthracnose or early blights or any of those kind of things, septoria, black spot septoria, which is what a lot of this is, they're just different forms of the same kind of fungus, basically. But as you can see, these plants will outpace the disease's rate of destruction. And as a result of that, you can end up with quite a few tomatoes. A lot of these are, you know, currant tomatoes and cherry tomatoes, so they grow very quick, very fast, and very productive. And so you can see that now that it's stopped raining, the plants are recovering and they're starting to grow again. So we're glad that the temperatures dropped and the humidity dropped and it stopped raining. Most people would be like, no, tomatoes love water. They do. They absolutely do love water. But the rain is toxic, guys. The rain it'll kill your plants. The rain destroyed all my container garden up front. Maybe I'll show you that later, but it basically wiped out about 40 pails of my container garden because there's no coverage for them, and they're not in the ground. If they were in the ground, the plants have a greater chance of recovering. If they're in those pails and it rained for 1.5 months, kiss those plants goodbye, because that's the one bad thing about those containers. If it rains every day, it floods them and the roots rot and the plant dies. So I'm going to have to do something different with my container garden as a result, because you can't, if it's going to rain on top of them, you're going to kill the plants. All right, so I'm just showing you quickly, you know, the damage from all of the rain that we got. I lost a lot of tomatoes. They did get a blossom end rot, and I pulled them, but a lot of these are starting to come back. And you see these plants are starting to look healthy up here. It's outpacing the rate of blight, the damage from the blight, so it's beating the blight, and as a result of that, it's putting out healthy flowers, and they're going to produce fruit before the end of the year. It's just the way it is, guys. All right, now let me explain something to you. A lot of people are saying, well, how do you control a blight? How do you deal with the blight? You don't deal with the blight. There's nothing you can do about the blight. So as a result of the blight, what I do now is, you see these plants in here, right? These have been in here about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. These plants all look like this, basically. I just brought this one recently in. They were basically all dead. They were shriveled up, lost all those leaves. There's the only thing that was left on them was the top and the root system with the soil. Didn't look like it was dying yet. There was no spots on the stem. Spots on the stem might look something like this, for example. This one's done because it's already invading the vascular system. The plant, I got a couple tomatoes off it, but the plant is basically dead. It's not going to recover from that. So I just need to get my tomatoes off and then pull that kind of plant. And these aren't spotted on the stem, so it didn't affect the vascular system of the plant. So as a result of that, I'm able to bring them in, and in about 2 or 3 weeks, these were all going to die. They all looked like this. They were shriveling up and dying by the day. And I finally said, let me do something, get them out of the rain. I brought them in here, and as a result of that, by getting them out of the rain, you can see that they are absolutely starting to explode all over again. It's not over, guys. It's over when you have the rain on them. The rain is toxic to tomatoes. There's no other way for me to put it. So how do I deal with the blight? You can't get rid of blight. You're never going to get rid of it. It's ubiquitous. It's basically, the blight is in the air. And when it rains, the rain brings the blight spores down on top of the plant, and it spreads it like a disease. And there's nothing you can do about that except keep it out of the rain. If you keep it out of the rain, and you can see there's still blight on the bottom of the plant, and I still brought it in here, and yet the plants, look at them. They're all starting to grow. They're flowering like crazy. I'm starting to see fruits pop out. These plants were almost all dead like this right here. They were all like this. They were almost dead. Now look at them. So it's the rain that's toxic. It's not the blight. The blight is just part of the tomato growing system. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to manage it. You forget about trying to resist yourself against it. It's like Tai Chi. Like in Tai Chi and fighting, when you fight with using those kinds of types of martial arts, you don't go against the energy because you'll lose that battle. You always follow and go with the flow of energy. Anybody who knows anything about martial arts knows what I'm talking about. And so this is kind of the same kind of approach you got to have. You can't go against the energy of nature. You have to kind of find that flow, go with it, and then do what works best. In my particular case, what works best is taking it out of the rain. If you take it out of the rain, your plants will recover, and they're doing great. So I'm hoping that I'm answering that question as far as the blight goes. There's nothing you're going to do about it. You just have to manage it. Keep the plants out of the rain. Yes, you're going to get lower blight on the lower leaves. One of the other suggestions I would make about the lower plant and the lower leaves, just keep your hands off it. Don't put your hands in and start cleaning all the lower leaves off, because if you do that, you help spread it. You don't realize you're doing that, but you make it worse. For some reason, I find when you start picking off all the lower leaves, it accelerates the rate of disease the way it spreads. Even if you didn't touch the plant, even if I didn't touch this plant and I start picking off all those leaves, that the next day, this whole thing will be covered in spots. Don't do it. It gets inside the vascular system. And when you open that, when you pull off the old stem, there's a little hole there, and it gets open. Those spores invade the vascular system of the plant, and the parts of the plant are still producing, and I'm still going to get fruit, and plenty of it. Just keep your hands off it. Take them out of the rain, and that's about all you can do, guys. Guys, I usually do very, 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 very good. This particular year, I've never seen anything like it as far as rainfall. So I kind of messed up. That's my fault, because I totally didn't anticipate a drought for 2.5 months and then rain for every day for a month and a half. And if had I known that, I would have never put any of my plants outdoors, or I would have built some kind of covering for my container gardens. Yes, you're going to get blight, but like I showed you, even with early, some of these plants got late blight, which is the worst. Late blight is as bad as Fusarium or Verticillium. It's as bad as that. It's even worse. Late blight's even worse than those. Late blight is what caused the potato famine. It's a really horrible disease that plants get. You can see even some of these plants have late blight, and it's not spreading anymore. It's actually dying out because I took it out of the rain. It has, and guys, I water these plants with the hose all the time. I'm spraying them with the hose. I'm just not getting the top canopy wet, but I'm spraying the whole bottom canopy with water every day. And you don't see any disease spreading. That's because the rain is toxic. That's it. So it's all you got to tell yourself. How do I deal with the blight? What do I do? What do I do? Take it out of the rain and you're good. All right. So that hopefully I covered the issues with the blight. If you do those couple of things that I told you, you're going to have a successful year. Don't panic because you see the plants slowly turning yellow on the bottom of the plant and their leaves are falling. The plant is dealing with the disease. It's doing what it does. If you remove that leaf that has that disease on it, the plant can't finish the process of killing off the disease to infect the rest of the plant. The plant knows what it needs to do to cure itself. When you stick your hands in there, that's when you mess it up. Just leave it alone, and you'll end up with a nice harvest. If you start picking leaves off, that plant will look like this in a matter of about a week. Leave it alone. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit about the aphid problem. So a lot of people are telling me they have the dreaded aphid problem. And part of what is the problem with that is the aphids, as soon as you start showing me aphids, I know what the problem is automatically. I know you're growing under a greenhouse or something protecting it from direct sunlight. What's happening is these aphids that are infecting your plants. Now you don't see too much of an infection here because I pretty much I spray these indoors. But eventually these plants, once they get big enough and they start fruiting, and I'm going to have to get them out of here because they're already infested with aphids. You just don't see it because I'm spraying them. But you're never going to get rid of aphids. The aphid problem is a greenhouse type of problem. Out here, you'll never see aphids on any of my pepper plants ever. The only time you see aphids is in here. This is the problem. The problem is growing your pepper plants anytime indoors. Whether you're growing them under lights in your house, or you're growing them in a greenhouse, or even if you got your plants sitting with just a roof, like you have the poles on the side, but you just put like a canopy over the top to keep the rain off, and the sides are all open, the thing will fill up with aphids just as bad. There's something to do with the sunlight controls the spread and effect of the aphid problem. It has something to do with it. I don't know the answer to that. However, what I can tell you is what I've been observing. And by me growing pepper plants inside of here, the aphid problem is absolutely starting to infestate. There's nothing you can do. I've tried every method under the sun. I've tried every chemical there is. There's only a few chemicals I would recommend for it, but however, it's toxic to add to your soil. And if you start eating the fruits after you add these chemicals to it, you could potentially be consuming these chemicals, and it could be very, very bad for you. So I don't recommend those. However, that might be the only thing you can do to keep this under control. The chemicals that you use to treat your pepper plants is not a cure. It's never going to get rid of them. The only thing that's going to do is put a Band-Aid over the wound. You have to change that Band-Aid every day, and you got to put hydrogen peroxide and other stuff on that wound, or else the wound, it gets infected and diseased, and then you end up with a bigger problem. It's the same situation with pepper plants. These aphids, there's no getting rid of them. They're not aphids anymore. They are now a disease. I'm telling you this out of my personal observations with these types of insects. And this particular type of insect has a very unusual effect to them. I'm almost starting to think that they're genetically modified because the way they reproduce is not the way an insect reproduces. So you might see the way it is. You might be like, wow, your plants look great. I don't see any aphids on it. As soon as I see one aphid, within 2 days, there'll be this thing will be 1 million aphids and absolutely covered in 2 days, guys. What I'm trying to tell you is the only way to really control this is basically to grow your pepper plants outdoors. I'm keeping them indoors for a little while, but once the aphids start to get too bad, I'm going to have no choice but to move these outdoors. Now, if I move them into direct sunlight, right out here, I'm going to lose all them leaves. The fruits aren't going to fully mature, and I'll lose 90% of the seed on those fruits. They're basically garbage. Once you move a pepper plant that has fruit in it, it's a 50-50 chance that fruit's going to become junk as far as if you're trying to save the seeds. So in order for me to get proper seeds, I really can't move these plants. It's already too late. They're already starting to get big. In about another week or two, they'll probably be up to here. Another 3 weeks, they'll be up to here, loaded with fruit. But the problem is the aphids, right? So if you look at all of my plants outdoors, not one plant will have not even one aphid sac on it. None. They're pure, they're clean, they're absolutely gorgeous, and not one single aphid. Nothing. These plants are very, very healthy. Yes, these are old plants. Were brought out here, so they're still kind of going through that transfer shock. And we've been getting cold nights, so I'm starting to get yellowing leaves. I mean cold nights meaning like 55 degrees, 54 at night. And so, yeah, it's causing some yellowing on the leaves. It's tripping out the plants. However, if you look at all the leaves on my plants, all my outdoor plants, they're absolutely healthy. This is black tapine. These plants are healthy. There's not one single insect on these plants. As soon as you put them indoors, as soon as you bring these plants in here, they will absolutely infest. Oh, well, you're putting them next to other plants that are infected. I can put them anywhere in this greenhouse. The thing that these insects can literally crawl from this end of the greenhouse to that end of the greenhouse in about 15 minutes. You'd be like, that's impossible. They're tiny little insects. That'd be like trying to cross the United States on foot in 3 days. These insects cover so much ground so quickly and so fast, they will literally crawl from there to there in about 15 to 20 minutes, and that plant will be completely and utterly infested within a matter of hours. There's nothing you can do about these insects. I've told you, I've done everything. The only thing that works is growing your plants outdoors, and you'll never have an aphid problem again. But as soon as you bring them in here, that's it. They come out of the soil. The eggs, the larvae, and everything else must live inside the soil. And what ends up happening is these are sucking insects. So what they start doing is just start sucking all the sap and the juice and everything the plant produces. Again, photosynthesis is what feeds our plants. And so as photosynthesis occurs, it produces the sugars and everything else the plant needs for growth. And these insects will go in here and they will literally suck that sap out of your pepper plants. And as they suck the sap out of your pepper plants don't really grow anymore. Your plants need that sap that they produce from sunlight, photosynthesis, in order for these plants to get growth. If these insects are literally sucking the sap out of it, and you ain't getting the juice that you need for it, they're not going to grow. These plants right now, these plants should be almost a foot taller as a result of me having, well, I started late in the year, but they should be about a foot taller. And I was also kind of dealing with them in the beginning. I sprayed them out. Another thing too is these plants, they don't start off at the top canopy. They start off on the very bottom leaf like this. You turn that over and that leaf will be completely covered. And then within days, they go from the lower leaves, and they travel right to the top of the plant and they infest everything. So what I would suggest too, if your plants are starting to get big enough, get rid of all the lower leaves on your pepper plants, because that's where the infestations begin. They all begin down here on these lower leaves. Get the lower leaves off your plant. Once these plants start getting about a foot to 18 inches tall, get all them lower leaves off, clean all of that out, and then spray the tops of your pots with your sprays that you use to control the insects. Just spray the tops of the pots, spray the top of the soil. That soil is probably infested with those little larvae. There's nothing you can do about these aphids. They're not regular aphids, guys. In my opinion, these aphids were genetically modified to be something that you cannot control. Again, I did the methods with the using the chemicals, and at one point, I was literally using all day. I would cycle through 7 different chemicals every single day, and after the 7th day was done, I'd go back to the first chemical and I'd start all over again. Nothing works. Nothing controls them. Eventually, they just come back. Oh, you weren't spraying it enough. Guys, I literally was covering. I've done it so much. I spent thousands of dollars and spent so much time trying to control and spray and fight these insects off that I literally killed my plants trying to. And I did it. I did the mixtures, everything the way I was told. I've watched hundreds of videos on it. I did and it eventually started to kill all my plants. And eventually, in the end, it got my plants. They basically died. I ended up with like maybe a tenth of what I should have with fruits, rather than what I should have gotten. And that was all as a result of me following the standard protocol in order to deal with these insects. Nothing worked. The soaps will become poisonous. Everything becomes toxic and kills these plants eventually. The reason why my plants look good right now is I'm very, very careful how I deal with them. If the insect infestation starts to get too bad, out they go, out here. And I'll put them in the shade so I don't shock them as much. But yeah, I mean, I can put them in direct sunlight, but all these leaves will end up burning off. They'll stop growing for about 2 to 3 weeks. Even from here to here is no good. You can't move a pepper plant. As soon as you move a pepper plant, it stops growing for about 2 to 3 weeks. It might grow very slowly, but it's not really productive. They're not like tomato plants. These plants, when they go into this shock thing, they just don't grow. So you don't want to move them anywhere. You don't even want to move these plants from here to here. If you can avoid it, leave them alone. Pepper plants do not like to be moved at all. But that's it, guys. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's how I deal with aphids. There's no getting rid of them. There's no curing. The more chemicals you add, the more plant stress you cause, you're going to create a really big problem. Anytime I do use this spray, in general, my rule of thumb is I just spray the very tops of the plants, because the very tops of the plants is where most of the photosynthesis is going to take place. All the lower leaves don't mean nothing. So why don't you spray them? That's where all the insects are. You pick the lower leaves off. Once these plants get to a certain height, all them lower leaves got to come off. And all I do is spray the very tops of the plants. If you could keep the aphids off the very tops of your plants, in general, your plant will continue to accelerate in growth. And the aphids, no matter how much they try to infest the plant, because you're able to spray the tops of the plants easy, they can't get away. If you don't spray the bottom leaves, they infestate on the very lower leaves, and that's how they survive. That's how they they're right now, if I were to turn over a couple of these leaves, some of these leaves are absolutely covered. The entire bottom's like completely covered in aphids and psyllids and all of them. The whole gang of them is all under them leaves. However, yeah, I could remove that leaf, but now I removed it, and those insects know that you're tampering with it, so they go into hyper reproduction mode, and then they infestate even twice as fast. So leave it alone. Don't worry about it. Just make sure the top canopy's sprayed. When the time comes, they get big enough, start pulling off all the lower leaves. Anything within 6 inches above that soil, get it off the plant. And now the whole lower canopy of that plant is now up about 6 inches. So now you can take your sprayer very easily and go like this and get all the bottoms of the leaves, and that will help control it. And that's where they live. They live under the bottoms of the leaves. Once you see them infestate the very top of the plant, that's pretty much game over. That means these plants are absolutely inundated with there's so many of them that there's no way you're going to control it. And they're waiting for you to do something so they can go into full attack mode. And their way of full attack mode is to reproduce 10 times their normal rate of reproduction. They simply reproduce very similar to bacteria. I don't even think they lay eggs anymore. I think they just split and they become 2. Like 1 will become 2, then 2 will become 4, and then 4 become 8, and then 16. Next thing you know, they don't reproduce like that. That's why I'm saying I believe very strongly that these particular aphids are more of a they're more of a disease than they are an insect. They're no longer just a simple biological form. They've turned into a bacteria of some sort, or their genetic structure turned into bacteria. Now, this is another thing you got to look out for. Is you see on here. Let me see if I can find a better one. This is all part of their life cycle. If you see on here, you see that little spot, right? That's what they turn into before they get wings and they start flying. So you want to make sure you peel those off with your fingers, because those shells, those little cocoons that they're on, are impervious to any of those chemicals. So anytime you see those white little pimples on there, just take your fingers, pull them off like this. If I could show you, I dropped it. They're like little balls, like little white cotton balls. You got to kind of get them in your fingers, just squish them into nothing. But even squishing them into nothing, you got to dip your hands into water and then wash that off, because that's filled with microscopic eggs. And when you squish them around, that will literally create like 1 million aphids. So make sure you remove those cotton balls and either drop them into water or squish them in your fingers and then wash your hands off outside. because they will not live outdoors. They only live in a greenhouse. If you grow them outside, you won't have an aphid problem. So hopefully I answered a lot of your questions. Here's an aphid right here. These are some of you guys are probably seeing this stuff right there, that little red guy. That's one type of aphid. Then there's the green ones. These are all pepper aphids. Again, like you've seen me squish it, that's probably the worst thing you could do. That thing is literally an egg sac. And as soon as you squish them, you spread those eggs everywhere. You make it worse. As much as you want to pop it like you have a pimple, that's the worst thing you can do, because they're really bad. Another thing you're going to notice with these aphids too, you're going to see like a lot of that exoskeleton chaff. They can literally go from a little wiggly type thing that you can't see by eye into a winged aphid within about probably 20 minutes. So this thing will be completely covered in winged aphids if I don't control it in 20 minutes. It's that quick. That's how fast their life cycle is. And it's not something to take lightly. So if you have any questions, comment below, and I'll do the best I can to answer it. And I just want to show you quick. I think there's a winged aphid right here. A lot of people might call those psyllids or psyllids. Psyllids. It could be a psyllid. I don't know. It's very hard to tell the difference. They're very hot. They're very tiny. All right. So anyway, these are mostly duplicates of my pepper plants, and these are all duplicates. I started like 4 pots of each, and I'm kind of just growing them in different areas to see which ones do better where. But as you can see right there, we got we have our peppers there. We also got these. These were started much earlier in the season, so they're bigger, but they should be bigger than that. There's a lot of my wilds that I did get sprouted. I lost quite a few wilds because of the sunlight. The sunlight literally burned off my wild plants, so I lost a bunch of my wilds, so those are gone. I got some new stuff coming in. I got good plants over there. We got the big white cucumber right here, guys. Persian white. Very beautiful. I'm not going to be eating this because it's already too big, but that's a beautiful big white cucumber. We got more pepper plants in here. I just recently brought these in from outdoors. I'm kind of experimenting with these just to see how they do going in and out of the greenhouse, if the fruits are going to mature, the seeds are going to mature. Just kind of experimenting with them. I already got plenty of seed from these plants. I just want to see how they do by me moving them in and out. How big can these plants stay in these little pots, and so on and so on. Uchu cream. A lot of different tomato varieties. This is a wild cherry tomato. It's a wild variety, but this is a third variation of the wild hairy tomato. I got to plant that outside. Again, these are my tomato plants I brought in from outdoors. They're starting to look good. This right here is VPUC mutant variety. VPUC stands for, I don't know what it is. You got to go on my website and read it. We got Cascum flexuosum growing there. We got another one. Let's see. We got Solanum tuberosum, or Solanum myritinum. That one's kind of a hard variety to grow, but we are growing it. We got some Solanum arcanum naturally popping up, some more mutant varieties. I do have a couple of my own crosses in here. I'll show you some of the mutants really quick. These are my mutant varieties. I got to get these out of here. They're starting to get crowded out by this stuff. I just needed a place to put them. But I will be getting these out. But they're doing good right now. Some of these are my crosses. All right, so we got HR 1176 right here. This one we're hoping for different fruit. I think we might be getting lucky. We're going to be getting more of a tapine type fruit here. You can see the flowers on this mutant. They're like regular forming flowers. So this is a good mutant. This is one of my good crosses. I'd say probably out of about 20 crosses, I only got about 2 plants or 3 plants out of it that are successful. All the others are just doing the same old darn thing, and they're just atypical. Here's another one of my mutant varieties. This one's kind of let me see here. It's putting out purple fruit. I don't know. They're doing weird stuff. I crossed them with some good varieties, so we'll talk about them when we get to that point. But yeah, we got those. We got the Candlelight Mutants coming back. A lot of people are requesting the original Candlelight Mutant. They're not asking for all the other. They want the original strain, so we are growing that again. Let's see what else we got here. This is Etubriosum. This is Solanum etubriosum. Very hard to grow, very difficult. I don't know if I'm going to have any success with that. I'm hoping I can bring it in for the winter at some point. Pimenta Barangino, or Bangino or something it's called. We brought that in from outside. This is this is my capsicum rhomboideum. I have to think of these names. Capsicum rhomboideum. You can see this plant's doing absolutely gorgeous. It's getting ready for another pruning. Usually when I prune them, I cut the stems off and then I root the stems and offer them online. A lot of people like that. You can see it's flowering. We got nice flowers. It's not flowering like crazy too much, but we've got some flowers coming off the rhomboideum. Now this plant here is about 7 years old. It's been growing for a very long time. You can see the very stump on that thing is absolutely huge. And I just keep it going. I've been growing it now for about, this plant's like 6 or 7 years old. It's so old. It says, yeah, but that's only the day and a month. That's not the, that's old, but that's not the original tag. So yeah, this is an old plant. I've had this thing for years already. I've had it since the beginning. This plant right here, this is called Rocapico. And so this is a Capsicum Cardancy variety. A lot of people are misidentifying the species to this. It's actually called Capsicum Cardancy variety pendulum. So this is a pendulum type of Cardancy because it's already becoming domesticated. A lot of people are using these in cuisine and cooking. And so yes, this is a it's a natural hybrid. Nobody really knows where it came from. They think that it crossed over with a pubescens, but this is indeed truly a Cardancy or a Cardancy variety. It's not a pubescence or anything weird like that. It is classified correctly as a Cardancy pendulum. All right, and so over here we have this is Cardancy. This is the true form of Cardancy. So as you can see here, this plant really grows like a, let me try to get this stuff out of here so you can see it. You can see this plant grows like a vine, doesn't grow like a plant. So a lot of people are growing this, calling this Cardancy like regular Cardancy. It's actually Rocapico. What you're looking at here is the actual true form of Cardancy. It grows like a wild vine. That's the only way I can describe this plant to you. This is the true form of it. There's another form of this plant as well. I don't know where you get it. This is the USDA version of it, so it grows like a wild vine. But there is another one that grows more like a plant, and I don't know the name of that one. I don't know if I'm growing that one here. I got a couple Cardancy plants growing. I don't know if I'm growing that one. That one's very hard. That one's the one that's considered mostly to be self-incompatible, whereas this seems to be a little bit more self-compatible. You'll probably put out over 1,000 flowers on it, and I'm probably going to only end up with maybe a couple dozen fruit, basically, unless I pollinate them myself. So I just don't have the time. But yes, that's what that is. We got Camario Longato, the red version over there. What else we got here? We have a number of what do you call it, ricotta's going. This one I moved and it's really turning yellow, but it's still producing fruit. Hopefully it'll be okay. It started burning. I repotted it, so hopefully I didn't mess it up. That's ricotta Guatemala orange, that one there. So hopefully it doesn't mess up. I think I should get some fruit off it. I may have to, the plant may die by the end of the year. I don't know. It didn't like me repotting it or whatever, so we'll see how that goes. But this one's Ricardo Montefiore. Here's another. This one's this is called Hawaiian Kona. Now this is a wild variety of plant. I never have any luck with it. I've got it to fruit one time, but I brought it in and the fruit's never matured. This is a extraordinarily late season variety. It doesn't fruit in the middle of the season. It only fruits on the very ends of the season. So I've never had any luck with the Hawaiian Kona this far north. You can't really, if you bring it indoors, all the fruits and flowers and everything fall off. It doesn't like to be grown indoors. You have to bring it out, and never had any luck. We have over here green olive ricotta. What I might do this year, guys, is offer some of these as fresh fruits, the olive ricottas, as a whole. fruit. Don't know what I'm going to charge for them, but I'm probably going to end up doing that, something like that, because I got so many of these coming in, and I have so much seed that it's I gotta move this stuff. So we got Cap 500 over here. That's an Eximnium variety. We got another Ricato something over here in San Isidro or something like that. I don't know what this is. I got it tagged, but it didn't do good. Here's something that you guys would be interested in. This is Cascum flexuosum. This is either the red or the green flower. I can't tell. I think it's. You tell me what. Let me see. Is that yellow or green? So with Capsicum flexuosum, there's a yellow flower, a green flower, there's a red flower, and there's a number of other species that are already becoming pendulums inside the flexuosum world. So flexuosum is growing very popular very quickly. This plant here is roughly close to the same age as the rhomboideum. I think this one's 6 years and the other one's 7, or the other one's 8 years and this one's 7. I don't remember. It's quite old. I've had these for a very long time. Something I recently learned about Cascum flexuosum, that when I recently repotted this, I had to dig up some of the old soil. I cut off some of the old roots and stuff, and you know, you want to re-rough the root system up so it puts out new roots. Something I didn't know about flexuosum is that it'll generally put up suckers all along the bottom of the plant, and I started pulling them out because I thought there was like seeds that dropped and they sprouted. There were suckers that were coming up from deep under the pot, and they were coming up like maybe 6 or 7 inches down, and then it would come up above the surface. I pulled a bunch of them out, and I didn't know it until I pulled them out. That right there is a sucker. It's not actually a separate plant. That's just one of the suckers that came up. You can see that it put up a shoot from the lower stem of the plant. And so the lower part of this plant doesn't really die. It just continues to keep growing. If you cut the whole top part of this plant off, the whole bottom part of the plant will fill up with suckers. Very similar to the staghorn sumacs. If you cut that tree down, you'll have suckers all over your yard. Well, this does the same thing, guys. I never knew that about Cascum flexuosum. It does the same exact thing. So yeah, this plant's about 6 or 7 years old. I'm not getting any fruit really off it. I did get a lot of flowering, but it might just be too early in the season. Maybe I'll get fruits. I mean, there's a couple berries on it, but usually this plant by this time of the year is completely and absolutely covered in berries. This year was rough. It was a rough year for this plant. But as you can see, it's doing good. It's the upper canopy is getting pretty old, so I'm probably going to cut most of this off maybe soon. But it's fruiting right now, and I need the seeds because everybody's requesting it. Here's the raised bed that I got here. We have our Russian red kales growing here. I love to eat Russian red kale. I like to eat it raw. We got some collards growing here. We got a couple eggplants. They didn't do too good. As you can see, the flea beetles absolutely are destroying my plants. I don't know where they're coming from because I cleared this entire area out and they're just destroying the plants. So yeah, we got a couple eggplants growing here. I love to eat eggplants. These you can eat raw. You don't even have to clean them. We got garlic growing in here. We also have another Capsicum cardiaceae growing here. Again, I want to show you the way this plant grows. It's a good example of it. And this is a baby plant, it's a small one, but this plant really grows like a weed. It doesn't really grow like a plant like that. It just kind of puts all these little shoots on it, spreads around like a tumbleweed, and it gets absolutely enormous, and they'll put out millions of flowers. Again, if you're growing this for a particular variety of cardiaceae, this is what it's going to look like. So yes, we do offer seed for this kind on my site. I don't know if I have any seed left, but as you can see, out of every 1,000 flowers it puts out, I might only, if I'm lucky, end up with maybe 100 seeds. So, because it's, for the most part, it's generally self-incompatible. This is my sweet Italian basil. This is a different basil I'm growing this year. Very nice A little bit of burn from the sun. The sun has been getting absolutely extraordinary, but we're letting it go to, we're letting it bolt and go to flower, so you guys can get seed. A couple more Ricardo varieties. Which one is this? Ricardo Costa Rican. So I have a red version and a yellow version, I believe, in the same pot. So I'm not sure if I'm going to separate. And these are just my tomatoes. I showed you that before. Kind of, as the tomato plants are dying, I'm kind of using up some of the other space. So I'm growing mung beans right here this year. And so among the mung beans, we got tomatoes growing around them. We got some summer squash growing here and zucchinis. They're gonna slowly replace the dying tomato plants as they come out. These will start to grow. It'll be a good fall crop. We also have, hopefully these will pick up. These are my Mexican sour gherkins. I'm just kind of planting them along the edges, but I don't think they're going to grow this year because it's just been a horrible year. Just growing them among the tomatoes for sort of like a cover crop. And what else we got here? We got some wild tomatoes for you tomato people. There's 4 versions of Solanum peruvianum I'm growing, and I'm trying to grow all 4 versions of it. So yeah, we got some good stuff with the Solanum peruvianums. I'm not getting any fruit out of them, so that kind of sucks. But as you can see, this is one type of flower you're going to see on this particular variety of Solanum peruvianum. This is one of my hybrids that came out of my what you call it here? It's a hybrid that came out of the Solanum galapagos type 1 minor. I believe it's type 1, the minor hairy version. All right, so it's a very rare form of the Solanum galapagos. Well, one or two of the seeds crossed, and I ended up with all these crazy varieties that are coming out of it, and I'm ending up with all kinds of weird stuff. So this is one, as you can see here. You can see that the fruits are very hairy, very fuzzy. This is definitely Solanum galapagos. It's a variant of it because it's crossed, but you can see that it's very hairy, and it's also got a lot of anthocyan in it. So you're seeing a lot of purpling effect on the fruits and in the stem. So it's kind of a purple version of it. It's really cool. I'm going to separate that one out, and we'll maybe grow that out for a year or two. I am offering seed to this one here. I call that Heirloom Reviews Wild Currant Tomato. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of those in there. However, in that mix of that seed, you're getting other variants coming out of it. So you have to grow out all the seeds when you buy it for here, and you should end up with at least one pure version of the Heirloom Reviews variety of currant, hairy, woolly currant tomato. And you're going to end up with some of these other variants. So I'm working on stabilizing these other variants. Another Solanum peruvianum variation of it. Again, these are very self-incompatible. They're not producing any fruit, so I may have to dig them up and bring them in. I need that like a hole in the head. Here's another Solanum peruvianum. Nice variety here. This is type 3 or type 4. You can see the plant gets quite large. This is a very aggressive version of it. It is like putting stuff out. I don't know if those are runts or what. I don't know. But you could see out of every 1,000 flowers, you might get one tomato out of it, right? So yeah, that's just the nature of this type of plant. And unfortunately, it's not very, very productive. A couple more things. I'll take you to the pepper garden, and then we'll end the video. We got a bunch of other stuff there. We got some, I don't remember what I planted there. Those are cucumbers, but I don't remember what variety. It might be Sikkims. I'm not sure. I got to start growing my cucumbers outdoors because they get so much larger. These Sikkims can get as big as a watermelon. They can get absolutely enormous. Hawaiian currant tomato over there. Got a bunch of stuff in here. San Marzano Giganti #3. A lot of people are requesting that. We finally got some healthy plants. It looks like we can get some fruit off of that one, so be glad. I'll be offering that again. There's nobody else actually offering San Marzano Ignanti number 3, that's completely raced off the map. So I'm going to be the only person supplying that seed. Hopefully some of you guys will get it and start offering it, because it's very hard for me to grow by myself. Over here, this is wild cherry tomato. This is an actual third variation of this variety, and this variety can get absolutely enormous. I showed you a little cutting of it on the inside of the greenhouse. This is the regular plant growing out here. This is supposed to be the largest flowered tomato flower version of solanum tomatoes out there. So as you can see, these flowers on this particular variety get absolutely enormous. Look at the size of that flower on there. So these flowers on this particular variety get very, very large. It doesn't like to fruit. I don't see any fruits anywhere on it. Maybe it'll produce fruit at the end of the year. I don't know. A lot of flower drops, doesn't like to produce fruit. Hummingbirds are licking on the end of it. But it just makes a ton of flowers and no fruit. So hopefully we can get some seed off it. If we do, we'll offer it. If not, oh well. And that's it with the tomatoes. There's more I can show you. I could spend all day in a tomato garden, but let's take you into the pepper garden really quick, and we'll end the video for you. So we got a lot of our peppers are doing good this year. They're a little behind schedule. They just really didn't like this high amount of rain and high amount of everything else, but they're picking up now. They're starting to come in now. We got about another month and a half, 2 months, so hopefully by then we could get some fruit out of them. I don't know what this is. I dug it up and saved it. Do you have any idea what this is? Has anybody ever seen this plant before? I'd never seen it before. It just appeared in my garden one day, and I found it really curious, and now I'm letting it flower. We'll get seed. We'll try growing it out again from, a little plant, and then just to see what it is. I have no idea what it is. It's really cool looking. So hopefully we can get that producing. Got a number of cucumbers just popped up randomly around here. These are mini whites. I keep eating them. I got to stop eating these things. I eat all my freaking cucumbers. I'm like addicted to these things. These things are so freaking good. I'm looking for the little ones. I love those little white cucumbers. They're really good, man. I munch these things down all the time. This is a very productive variety of cucumber, though. We got, they pop up randomly around my yard. That's the strawberry spinach. It produces like little raspberries. Over here, this is called red orch. I let it grow this year. As you can see, it's absolutely covered in seed. So I will be offering seed to this. I'm going to give you a good amount of seed for the offering. And you can see these plants can get very large. It's in the lamb's quarter family, but this is a red version of it. It looks really beautiful, and it's a small plant. Maybe I'll share pictures with you at the end of the video. Yeah, so we got you can see all our pepper plants are doing good. We got Max Ike over here. This is a Guatemalan type of chiltepine, which I like this variety a lot. I like the taste of these. These are really good, and they're really hot, this Max Ike version of it. Somebody sent me those seeds too, by the way. So those are good. Salaruro, these get really large. What else we got here that might be interesting? We got black chiltepine right there. That's called a black chiltepine, or Lil Black, L-I-L, black, I think is how you would say that. Lil Black or black chiltepine. What else we got there? We got a few coming off of this. This should have been pruned down. I didn't have time this year. Trying to look for something that you guys would be interested in. Pepper people, you don't want to see the regular stuff. You like the sexy things. You like all the sexy stuff there. That's some kind of ricotta. I don't remember which one. Oh, ricotta orange. This is the only cap variety of ricotta I have. Cap 867 or something like that. So that's the only one I got of that. All the other ones, if they do have cap numbers, I do not know what they are. Let's see. What else do we got here? We got a number of super hots growing here. This is Purple Reaper. This is last year's plant. And it didn't fruit last year, which was a very unfortunate thing, but I did winter it over. It survived through the winter. Out of 300 plants, I lost about 175 plants. So whatever you see out here is what actually survived the winter, and they're very hardy, very strong plants. Are going to produce fruit this year. All the other stuff just died off from root rot and everything else. So you can see the purple reapers are right here. Yeah, they're not giving me the tails just yet, but that's what came out of the purple reapers. So I'm not going to change the name of it. I'm just going to keep it the same. We have Kabaka Peach. We have a number of other things here. We got Zing. We're growing Zing again. I like the Zing variety. The Zing varieties are very nice. They really produce really nice tails. We got, this is called Turvy. It's a Middle Eastern variety of pepper. It's the only capsicum frutescens variety I have that makes very large fruit. As you can see, these fruits can get really big. I mean, these things can get as big as and long as 6 inches long. And yes, it is a capsicum frutescens. I'll show you the flower. Okay, that's the flower. And it's the true version of this plant. You can't really buy seed anywhere in the world for it anymore. I'm like the only person who still has seed that's left for it. And so this is the original version. I got this from Pepper Lovers. Thank God that they offered it. And I'm really glad that I got seed for it, and I've been growing it ever since, because it's such a magnificent variety as far as the flavor and the look of the pepper and the way it grows. It's a very magnificent variety. Doesn't produce a lot of seed from it, but I should get enough seed to be able to offer more at the end of the year. I think I have a little seed left online, but this is a great variety. It's very rare. Hopefully some of the other seed people out there will pick up, grow it, pick it up and grow it and then offer the seed, because I'm the only person who's offering it. And if you can't get this one again, that's gone. So it'll be forever forgotten for eternity, and I just think that's a shame, because nobody else wants to save the seed and grow it. Turvy, very, very great. It's from Iran, from Tehran and Iran. It's a great variety. I guess you'd have to go to Iran to get that variety, and that is not something I look forward to doing. We got strawberries just growing here. Some of this stuff is just growing wild. I'm doing this kind of on purpose, specifically to see how my plants react to other wild plants near it. I'm looking for that allelopathic effect to see if there's any effect on the plants growing and other insect environments. That's why you see it gets kind of messy like that, but it's not an accident. I'm experimenting. That's how I find things out. We have Lily of the Valley growing here. I bought seed for it. I started growing it. I planted it in here. The upper canopies died. I pulled everything out, and little bits of the roots still lived, and now it's continually living here and grows every year. This is called Lily of the Valley, and you can see it's covered in all these little bell-shaped bell-shaped little flowers. Very beautiful. Almost look like cardiaceae flowers. It almost looks like a wild pepper variety. I was really interested in that, but it's not. It's whatever that is. I don't know what the species of it is called or whatever. But it makes a lot of flowers, but no fruits. But the flowers on these things are absolutely gorgeous. I really love the flowers. They look almost identical to a white flowered version of cardiaceae. Almost look identical to it. Just other pepper plants growing here. I'm trying to see if there's anything of interest for you guys. Okay, so here's Capsicum Exile. This plant's roughly about 3 years old now. This is the third summer it's been coming out. I've been wintering this plant every year. So this year, after 3 years, is very, very productive. The first 2 years, it didn't really produce very well, but now it's really producing quite a few of these little bird pepper type things. This plant's going to be covered with Capsicum Exiles fruit this year. So this Capsicum Exile is really a Chachioense variety, or Chocioense, or however you say that. And so it kind of falls into that variety. So it's not quite an annum or anything else. It's actually a Chocioense. I'll show you the flowers. Okay, so it is in that family, but this year it's doing very, very good. We're going to get a ton of seeds from that, so we will replenish whatever stock I don't have. Now, there is a large version that I was offering for a while. It was just a random seed that came out of my original seed, and it was a larger seed. So I was offering that for a while. So we are growing it in a greenhouse, but you're not going to see seed for that again probably for another year or 2 years. I didn't think people would be interested, or I would have wintered that plant over as well. But apparently people are very, very interested in that. So when it gets bigger, I will offer the seed for that. Now, these are most of these are just random stuff that I planted. You got Leviathan here. You can see it right here. We got some more Leviathans. This thing's loading up with pods right now. This right here is, this is Quintiso. This is a Bacadum version of Quintiso, and you can see there's the flower on it. So we got the Bacadum version of Quintiso. What else we got here? Anything interesting? We got more Ricardos here. I already picked a few Ricardos off of this thing. This is Ricardo de Seta. And this is a really good Ricardo variety. It's extraordinarily productive. Right now it's just flowering, but when this thing starts putting out fruits, it literally puts out, I mean, I could almost fill a wheelbarrow up full of Ricardos from here. There's so many fruits on here, I don't even save the seeds to most of it. I just eat them and then chuck them, because I already got a ton of seed from it. I don't know what else I'm going to do with it. So, and not a lot of people buy this. I'm not sure why. Maybe they don't know about it, but so I don't keep a lot of seed from it, but it produces tons and tons of seed. We got this popped up randomly from old seed that fell on the ground. That's Artemisia absinthium. This is basically absinthe, and that's the true version of it. A lot of people don't know about that, but that plant is a natural wormwood, and it will deworm you. And yes, it pops up randomly. I grew it one time here, and now randomly throughout the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, it comes up every now and again on its own out of literally nowhere. So yeah, well, I'm going to save seed from it this year. I have one bigger plant in the greenhouse. We will save seed and offer it this year. Oh, look at them. They're destroying my plant. Isn't that nice of them? Little scumbags. Just break them up like this, guys. That's all you do. Those are Japanese beetles. You break them. You don't have to squish them. You just break them. And that's it. You get rid of them. Because that's what that will just absolutely devastate your garden. This is just a random tomatillo that I planted. It comes up every year. I just let them grow. I don't know nothing special about them. What else we got here? We got other stuff here. We got like, I don't know, these might be Baluchulokias. I don't know if they're a red version or whatnot. This here is it's a daikon radish. It came up randomly, so I let it grow. This is daikon. These radishes, look at the size of the root on that thing. Man, these things get absolutely enormous. So yeah, I normally offer daikons when they come up randomly in my yard. I grow them one time, and again, these will pop up randomly around the garden every couple of years. And when I do, I save the seed for it. So we'll save the seed for these daikons, and we'll offer them at the end of the year. Anything else? Oh, here's something that some of you pepper people might be interested in. Now, a lot of people say that this isn't the true version of Cap 501. I got this from Pepper Lovers, so I don't know. This plant's already like 2 or 3 years old, and before that I grew it for 1 or 2 years. So it's my second grow off of the same original seed, but this is what came out of Pepper Lovers, and this is it. This is Cap 501. Now, the problem with Cap 501 is it produces quite a few runts. Basically what that means is it produces fruit with no seed. And when your plants are producing no seed, that there's nothing you can do about it. You can't save the seed. But this is the last plant and the last of the seed I have from Cap 501. That is it. Whether you're saying that it crossed or not, I don't know. But the majority of the fruits on there are very small like that. You might get 1 or 2 that get big for some bizarre reason like that. Don't know why it does that, but a lot of these wild varieties will put out one fruit that gets really large. But this is Cap 501, guys. And so if it doesn't give me viable fruit again this year, I just got to cut it down in half and dig it up and bring it in again. I don't know what else to do. It doesn't like to produce fruit, and I can't find anybody else who's offering Cap 501. It just doesn't exist anymore. A Xenon Mutant, and that's basically it, guys. I mean, I can't go through everything. We got Ahi and Norteno there. That one's an old plant already. That's like 2 years old or 3 years old. It finally started fruiting in its second year, and now this year this thing's covered in fruit, so we'll get plenty of seed from Ahi Norteno this year. And just a lot of other stuff that just doesn't want to grow. It's kind of stunty and muty, but those are all last year's fruits. And that's really it, guys. I gave you a quick garden tour, gave you an explanation on tomato blight and how I deal with it. And you know, hopefully you get you can take that information and use it to your best advantage. And just that's really nothing you can do with the tomato blight. And there's really nothing you're going to do with the aphids. The only thing you can do is what I just told you. And what I find that works best is you bring your pepper plants outdoors and let them grow outdoors, and bring your tomato plants indoors and let them grow inside out of the rain, and that's the only way it works. Now, you might get tomato leaf mold after a while being inside the greenhouse, so that's not that bad. It's not good, but it's nowhere near as bad as regular blight. Your tomato plants will grow fine even with the tomato leaf mold on it. But if that happens, you got to stop growing in a greenhouse for about 2 to 3 years. Grow out here, then it goes away. You can also spray it down with bleach and everything. That does help. But if you get it in the greenhouse, you got to stop growing tomatoes for at least a couple of years. And then you bring it back in, and it'll be just like it is now. Your plants will be fine. And you got to leave it very well ventilated. If it's not air ain't blowing in your greenhouse, yeah, they'll end up with tomato leaf mold. Here's my pond. I'm rebuilding the pond now. I gotta rip all this out. I'm gonna rip all that out. I'm gonna leave some of the cattails in there, and because people actually ask me to sell these cattails, or at least the you know, where is it? I can't see it on my camera. They're asking for those punks, right? So all the punks that are growing, they actually want to buy those punks. So yeah, I sell those, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out my pond, and I got to rip all the ivy. This ivy literally took over, and I'm going to pour some concrete in here, and it's going to look nice when I'm done. I got to clean it up, guys, you know, and it just takes a lot of time to do it. And I have netting here that I'm going to put over the pond so the leaves don't go in. I got to dig all the leaves out of the thing. Oh, it's a lot of work. Blueberry bushes. We got blueberry there. We got high bush, low bush. I also have my gooseberries that I'm going to dig out from over there. I'm going to plant them here. I dug up my my wolfberries, and it looks like it died. So I don't know. As soon as you dig that plant up, it dies. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, comments, just comment below. I'll do my best to answer it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Enjoy.